Hello, me again. I'm Mike. I decided to do a load of small building block videos about how we're using different components because I think it's going to make it much easier to explain some of the stuff we're doing that's a bit more complicated. So, here goes with the first one. Okay, this is how I've used some relays. Um, I suppose we should start with the normal caveat of don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing. However, by the end of this presentation, perhaps you'll have a bit more confidence to experiment, but low voltages only, please, folks. So, if you've seen my other videos, you've seen that we've got quite a lot of track up in the loft running round, and that there's power supplies at different strategic places covering different sections, especially where there's sidings or something. And it's got advantages and disadvantages. It does let more than one person operate the layout, or it can be done just with one person. Or if you want to stop and do some shunting at one point, you can. So the problem we've got is that the area is quite cluttered and it's quite easy to bang your head as you zoom around to try and sort out something. And when you get to a derailment or a problem, you can switch the power off, sort it out, switch the power back on, that's fine. But if you want to bring in different ways of controlling that track, so possibly a second controller, but I'm hedging my bets here because it's mentioned the Arduino word, which is going to be subject to a future video, then that can be an issue too. So what we thought we'd do is make up some relays to allow a choice of power supply. So that might be where I've got two different sources of power and the track can be switched to use either of them. Or maybe I just want to turn a power controller off remotely or on remotely. Anyway, the thing with relays is they're just big switches, and you use a low voltage, low current circuit to energize the relay, and that makes the switch work. The switch itself can handle much larger currents and voltages. So here's one I prepared earlier. This is just an outline of the way a relay works. What you need to get your head round is that there's 6 contacts on the left and 2 on the right. Sometimes you get a single pole relay and there's only 3 contacts on the left and still 2 on the right. And the centre pair of contacts of the 6 is the common one, and when you operate the relay it switches between one side and the other. And one side's normally what they call normally closed, and that means that's where the current flows if there's nothing happening. And the other side's normally open, which means that the current switches to there if you provide an actuating current to the control circuit. So what we thought we'd do was make up a little board with a pair of relays on, both operated by the same control circuit. One of them is going to choose where the track power comes from, either controller A or controller B, and the other relay is going to be used to turn controller B on. And I've just realised they're all marked the wrong way around on the diagrams. Never mind. So this is what we came up with. It's very simple, just on a bit of pegboard. The 2 relays are kept completely separate ends of the board so that they don't get confused, and I'm not going to show you my soldering on the back. Basically the left hand relay controls the power to the track, so the centre pair of contacts on the little green blocks goes out to the track. Controller power supply A feeds in to the left hand pair of contacts, and power supply B feeds into the right hand pair of contacts. And power supply B in its own right is not always on, so that's what the second relay is about. So by feeding in a low, say 9 volt supply to that, I can take a 9 volt supply out. When both circuits are live, the Arduino in this case turns on and starts providing power, which goes through circuit B and back out to the track. So it's a way of swapping to Arduinos. Arduinos can be set up to operate something called pulse wave modulation, which means that it's much more controllable and it even works with old 50s and 60s engines. So more about that in another video. So whatever next? Yeah, well, I'm going to try and install that thing I've just made up. I've realised that doing what I'm doing upstairs is completely disruptive. It means you can't run trains normally without a lot of rewiring or without having an experimental system providing power to a key part. So more about that in the future videos. But in the meantime, we've got a quiz for you. Any ideas where this was shot? I'm using it as my banner now on my channel, so you can always pick it up there. Answers in the comments, please. Thanks. See you later.